Pardon me? Pardon me? Pardon me? No, seriously, Biden, while you're handing them out, could you pardon me too? Because God knows I could use it. I think we should all get it. If his dirtbag son gets a pardon for whatever over the last 10 years, could we all get a one-off? Could we all get a gimme, a mulligan on some federal crime? Pardon me. It's the pardon that we all knew was coming for Hunter Biden, and we're going to dissect it for you right now from every angle, yes, including the media, the ladies on The View, and Scott Jennings has his glorious moment today on CNN. All that coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Thank you for watching our live stream today on the second day of December. What a busy. You think we're coming off the holiday. Everything's fine. The Lions win. Michigan shocks the world and beats Ohio State. We're just going to coast into the holidays. And then, boom, Joe Biden drops a pardon on Hunter Biden. We're going to get to all of it, and I can't wait. Thanks so much for watching our live stream, whether you're at Rumble with our Rumble crew over there. Those guys are maniacs. Or the YouTube live chat, which has really gotten big and lively. Give us some thumbs up here if you're excited about Michigan's big win. Actually, give us some thumbs up if you think Ohio State's going to have better luck next year. You see what I did there? Either way, give us thumbs up here so we can attract attention to our stream and people will join the chat so you can have a great time in there over the course of the next hour plus. And if you're watching us after the fact, thank you so much. Please consider subscribing to our show. The audience is growing by leaps and bounds, and we want to be all keyed up and ready to go on Inauguration Day coming up in, 6 weeks. We're in this together, and we want to build our audience as big as possible. And, well, you know how this works. That's all reliant upon you and your actions. So subscribe, share, and like. Thank you very much. Open an IRA in gold with Birch Gold, and you'll get free silver shipped directly to your home. That's right. That's right. You're getting free silver because you know me. It's the most wonderful time of the year, the only time of the year that Birch Gold gives away a free 1-ounce silver eagle for every $5,000 purchased. And the best part, you don't have to pay a penny out of pocket. Yeah, that's right. It's literally free. Simply convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. And Birch Gold is going to send your free silver coins directly to your home. Now, you might be thinking, why do I need to diversify gold? My guy's heading to D.C. Things are good. Well, here's the facts. An administration trying to reverse a $36 trillion national debt in just 4 years is like a field mouse trying to stop a freight train. It's not going to be easy. We have a huge amount to pay on that interest on the debt, let alone the principal. So take action now. Protect your savings. Text Larry to 989898 before December 18th. Get a free info kit on gold and to claim your eligibility for free silver on qualifying purchases from Birch Gold. Do it before December 18th. Again, text Larry, Larry, to the number 989898 for peace of mind that lasts longer than 4 years. All right, let's get right to it. Last night, Joe Biden announced to the world that, in fact, he would be pardoning his son, Hunter Biden. Now, I know, show me your shocked face, right? We all knew this was going to happen, each and every one of us. The only question really last night was, why now? A lot of questions circulating about the timing of this. Why not do this the morning of Trump's inauguration? Do it on your way out the door, right? Maybe it'll get hidden on Inauguration Day and people won't talk about it. Or even better, maybe you overshadow Donald Trump's news cycle by sort of bigfooting it. Well, the fact that he did it yesterday, he did it now, this far out from inauguration, that's part of the clue to the real reason why Joe Biden pardoned Hunter Biden. We're going to reveal that coming up in a bit and also point out what everybody's missing about what this really means. But first, let's get to the details of this pardon. Here's the statement from President Joe Biden released last night. Today, I signed a pardon for my son, Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word, even as I've watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Remember that, okay? Remember that. That's going to be important. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It's clear that Hunter was treated unfairly. He goes on to say, no reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's case can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. There's been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober. So says Joe Biden without any evidence, by the way, but more on that later. Even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution and trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. Okay. Now, it would have been one thing if the statement that I just read to you was completely different than the statement that Joe Biden put out. It would be one thing, I think, if Joe Biden's statement was, listen, this is my sole surviving son. He has obviously had a troubled life beyond just addiction problems. It's not easy being Joe Biden's son, and it's harmed Hunter in a major way. He has broken the law. There's nothing that can change that fact, but he's my son, and he's now facing jail time. And what father wouldn't pardon their son to keep him out of jail? And I'm 82 years old. I don't know how many more years I have left, and I don't want to spend those years knowing that my son is in jail if I could have done something to prevent it. Therefore, as a loving father to his son, I'm granting a pardon. You know, I'll be honest with you. It still would have been lousy. It still would have been a double standard. It still would have been two sets of rules. It still would have been Joe Biden going back on his word. And he did give you his word as a Biden that he wouldn't pardon his son. It would have been all of those things. But at least the statement would have been, yeah, it's my son. What do you expect? Of course I'm going to do this for my son. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said that the Justice Department treated his son unfairly. The Justice Department used the law as a political weapon against his son solely for political purposes, solely because he is Joe Biden's son. By the way, this is the Justice Department that he has complete and total control over, an attorney general that he named and put in place, and an FBI that he has supported, a U.S. attorney in Delaware that he has completely supported, never minding the facts that that same Justice Department, that same attorney general, and that same U.S. attorney tried to make this entire case go away by giving a sweetheart deal to his son and giving him immunity. Forget about all of that. Joe Biden just affirmed everything that Donald Trump and Kash Patel and Matt Gaetz and so many other Republicans who supported Donald Trump have been saying about the Justice Department and the FBI and these U.S. attorneys. Joe Biden, in pardoning his son under these circumstances, just confirmed exactly why you want Donald Trump and a whole new team of people outside Washington, D.C. to clean house at DOJ. Joe Biden just confirmed what Donald Trump's been saying about the Justice Department, that they use the law in a selective, arbitrary, and political way to persecute people, even the president's son. It's remarkable. It's remarkable, the ramifications of what Joe Biden has said here. Now, more on that coming up in a bit. But again, let's get to the details here. In the actual language of the pardon, check this out. He gets a pardon for those offenses against the United States which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. That would be yesterday. So that includes 3 years and 11 months of the Joe Biden presidency. Do we think that deserves a little investigation? Wait, why does he need a pardon for the last 3 years and 11 months? I thought Joe Biden just said that he's been clean and sober for over 5 years. So, you know, I mean, the narrative is, well, he was troubled, he was addicted. And so, yes, he did some nefarious things. He needed money to feed his habit. If he's been clean and sober for 5.5 years, why didn't you end the pardon dates 5.5 years ago? Why did he need to be pardoned up until yesterday? What happened 2 months ago that he needs a pardon for? Good question. We'll get to that coming up in a bit, too. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre, asked multiple times while she's been White House spokesperson if Joe Biden would, in fact, pardon his son. Here's what she said.
Second one, will the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear and I said no.
Okay. Let me go back to the first question of the briefing. I know you said not a lot's changed since yesterday and that it's a personal matter, but from a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Again, you've also said several times that the president would not pardon or commute the sentences for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying he would not.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
It will always be a no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no. And I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
Wow, that's pretty unequivocal, isn't it? By the way, I'd love to show you what Karine Jean-Pierre has said today or is going to say today. But funny thing, Joe Biden is on his way to Africa, and Air Force One is over the Atlantic. And there was a gaggle with the very small number of reporters who were allowed to go with Air Force One to Africa, but they can't file from the airplane their reports while they're over the Atlantic. It's funny, there's no Wi-Fi there on Air Force One for reporters when they're outside of the international boundaries of the United States. That's weird, isn't it? Like if you're flying on United Airlines to Africa, you can be streaming video, you can be on the internet, you could be, tweeting or what have you. But if you're a member of the press pool and you're on Air Force One, no communications. Yeah. But what's remarkable about Karine Jean-Pierre going on this junket to Africa and giving a press gaggle while on Air Force One is the fact that Karine Jean-Pierre didn't turn in her resignation last night after she was publicly humiliated by her boss, Joe Biden. See, that's Karine Jean-Pierre putting her reputation on the line. Asked multiple times, is there any chance that Joe Biden will pardon his son? And she said, absolutely not. Not a chance. Not going to happen. I know this for a fact. Her boss just undermined her through whatever credibility she had left, and that wasn't a lot, in a complete and total bonfire, a trash bin, and set it on fire. And yet Karine Jean-Pierre is just fine getting on those steps, getting up to Air Force One and flying off to Africa with her boss. Because, being Karine Jean-Pierre, being a Democrat, being on the left means never having to say you're sorry. She'll be forgiven. She'll get a great job. It's pathetic and it's disgusting. We've been told for quite some time over the last several years that no one is above the law. We've been told, meaning Donald Trump, of course, we've been told that everyone must face justice, right? Maybe you recognize some of these people reminding you that nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one 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 is above the law.
This just in, someone is above the law. If your last name is Biden. By the way, did you notice how many of those moments came during the Robert Mueller investigation? That's Robert Mueller testifying before the House Judiciary Committee with his results from the Russian collusion investigation. An investigation that found no criminal wrongdoing by President Trump or any Russian collusion of any sort. There were a couple of convictions, but it had to do with stuff that happened years ago by people who were in Trump's orbit or worked on Trump's campaign, but it literally had nothing to do with the Trump campaign. But that doesn't matter. It gave Democrats an opportunity to grandstand and say no one's above the law, whereupon in this context with Robert Mueller and Donald Trump, I would say, yeah, you're right. No one is above the law. You threw tens of millions of dollars at an investigation on charges that were dreamt up by Hillary Clinton and the Steele dossier about non-existent Russian collusion. And there were no criminal findings in any way whatsoever related to Russian collusion. So sure, no one's above the law. What point are you trying to prove here other than no one's above the law? Except Hunter Biden, who in fact is above the law because his dad is Joe Biden. Forget about all of those Democrats, though. What about this guy? He wants to make sure you also know that no one is above the law.
I'm calling for a constitutional amendment called No One is Above the Law Amendment. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law. The American principle that no one is above the law was reaffirmed. The justice system should be respected, and we should never allow anyone to tear it down. Those responsible can be held accountable. In my administration, no one is above the law.
Well, technically, Hunter Biden wasn't in his administration, so I guess it's just fine that Hunter got that pardon. Although, if I remember right, Hunter Biden was conducting cabinet meetings there in the final days of his dad's time as the nominee. Remember, after the debate, and everyone huddled to try to figure out whether Joe would be able to stay on the ticket or not. And then Hunter went to the White House with Joe, and he and his stepmom, Dr. Jill, were actually sitting in on meetings with his dad, the president. I mean, maybe that's where they concocted the scheme to give him the pardon. But no one's above the law. No one at all is above the law, except Hunter Biden. Well, and Joe Biden. See, it's an interesting thing. All of the crimes that Hunter Biden was accused of and what were clearly evidenced on that laptop that we were told was Russian disinformation and was a fake and was a fraud. Well, all of those crimes were actually connected to this guy, the big guy. Yeah, in pardoning his son, Hunter Biden, for any crime that he may have committed or may not have committed and was accused of or had not yet to be accused of, dating all the way back to 2014 through yesterday. Well, all of those crimes actually were connected back to him, the big guy. Any money that Hunter Biden may have made off of those crimes, which he's now been pardoned for, well, much of it funneled back to this guy and members of his family. In giving Hunter Biden a pardon, Joe Biden has also given himself a pardon. Now, I know you may come back and say, but the Supreme Court just said that there's immunity for actions that a president takes, and that would extend to a vice president as well. So he didn't need to pardon his son to keep himself clear. Well, it's funny. There was a 4-year window there when there was a lot of money flowing into Biden Inc. when he wasn't vice president and he wasn't president. And well, that actually could be chargeable for Joe Biden. He could actually be charged for whatever crimes were discovered there. And secondarily, if he personally benefited from any actions he took as president, and you can draw a direct line to money ending up in his bank accounts or buying him houses or helping out his family members for actions that he took, well, that could also fall under certain crimes that have nothing to do with the immunity. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because now there's a pardon in place, and Hunter Biden, he gets to walk, and presumably so does Joe Biden. He gets to walk too. So what's the real reason this happened? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to make you wait for it. But first, here's some things that everybody's getting wrong about it. First of all, if you saw that letter that I just read to you, Joe Biden focused in specifically on the gun charges. You know, that would be Hunter Biden lying on a gun application, then illegally disposing of a handgun in a trash can next to a public school, and then the tax evasion charges, the money that he's supposed to pay taxes on that he never did, that he's facing a conviction for. But this pardon goes well beyond just those two laws. It goes all the way back to 2014. Why 2014? Well, 2014 also happens to be the year that Hunter Biden joined the board of Burisma, an energy company in Ukraine. Now, not to jog your memory too much and knock those cobwebs out, but yes, that's right. That's the same company in the same country, Ukraine, where Donald Trump, as president of the United States, made a phone call to the president of Ukraine, President Zelensky, and said, listen, pal, we're sending you millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in aid. This is even before Russia invaded Ukraine. We're sending you money for humanitarian aid. We're sending you money to defend yourself so that Russia doesn't invade your borders like they did once Donald Trump left office. We're sending you all this money, and yet we're seeing all this corruption going on. You're not investigating it. I can't keep sending American tax dollars to Ukraine if I know that it's going to a corrupt government and corrupt people. And by the way, the corruption in your government seems to be linked to the highest levels of corruption in our government, the past government, because Vice President Joe Biden is tangled up in it. You need to start investigating this, or we're not going to send you all of this money. Now, that's the phone call that Donald Trump made that was then leaked by Eugene Vidman and Alexander Vidman to Adam Schiff in the House of Representatives, and that began the impeachment of Donald Trump. Think about that for a minute. The impeachment of Donald Trump over a phone call to the president of Ukraine to investigate obvious corruption and obvious illegality linked back to the Biden family. Well, that phone call that started the impeachment has now been 100% vindicated, because Joe Biden just gave his son a pardon for anything involving his connection to that Ukrainian energy company. Now, doesn't that tell you that Donald Trump had every reason to call the president of Ukraine and investigate this? I mean, seems to me that you don't impeach a president for asking to look into criminality and corruption and say, oh, no, that was just political. You were just trying to hurt Joe Biden and hurt his political chances, when in fact Joe Biden just pardoned his son for the exact thing Donald Trump wanted President Zelensky to investigate. So people have kind of gotten this whole thing wrong, that it's just Joe Biden helping out his son, and that this is a double standard, which it is, that Joe Biden lied, which he did. Yes, that's a big part of this. Sure it is. Sure it is. But I'm going to tell you something. Leading your news with, well, it looks like Joe Biden has reversed course, and even though he promised not to impeach his, or not to pardon his son, he's gone ahead and pardoned him anyway. Oh my gosh, Joe Biden has no integrity, no principles, no values, and he's a corrupt, pathetic jerk. That's not really news. We've known this about him. He's been like this for 50 years. He's a horrible man, and he will lie, and he will cheat, and he will deceive for his own pathetic political gain. Look at the Charlottesville lie. There are very fine people on both sides. I can't believe he said that about veins bulging out of their necks, neo-Nazis. That's the reason Joe Biden tells us he ran for president in the first place. And that was a lie. Everything about this man's political career has been a lie. So don't lead your big news report today saying, oh, wow, this is an outrage. He lied about pardoning his son. That's not really the big deal here. You're wrong. Of course we know he's a liar. But in doing this, he's just vindicated everything that Trump said in that phone call with Ukraine. Every single reason that Donald Trump was impeached was just validated by Joe Biden pardoning his son, Hunter. But it goes beyond that as well. It goes well beyond that. When Joe Biden was running for president, these stories came up and everybody in this town knew about it. Everybody in Washington. There was a Vanity Fair article back during the primaries featuring Hunter Biden, asking the open question, will Hunter Biden's past ruin his father's political ambition? Now, when it looked like Bernie Sanders was going to get the nomination, Barack Obama stepped in and engineered the Joe Biden coup. And, well, at that point, it was baked in the cake. Everybody had to circle around Joe Biden, and everyone who was worried about Hunter Biden's corruption in his past, they all got amnesia. And they said, there's nothing wrong with Hunter. Everything's fine. Let's just get rid of Trump. And we'll bring a virus from China if we have to. But every single thing that Joe Biden said during that campaign, as the story was coming out about his son, every denial, every assertion that he never talked to his son about his business dealings, that was a lie. Every time he said he never met with any of his son's clients, that was a lie. Every time he said that he never got involved in any of the business dealings, that was a lie. Every time he said that the laptop that had all of that evidence of multiple things on it, that was a lie. Every time he was asked in a debate about his son's business dealings, and he said, my son never made money from China and he hasn't done anything wrong, those were lies. And if the American people knew the truth, and if we had journalists and media that actually wanted to hold him accountable and find out the truth, well, Joe Biden would not have been named president at the end of the 2020 election cycle, but he was. In fact, one of the major talking points that Joe Biden had against Donald Trump during that campaign was this guy just got impeached for following up on lies about my family and about my son. Well, that was a lie too, now that we know that Joe Biden has now pardoned his son for everything. Joe Biden pardoning his son going all the way back to 2014 validates that Joe Biden lied to you, not just about his son, but during that entire campaign. Everything about this man is a fraud. And he just validated it. He just validated it by doing this on his way out the door. But the question still remains, what's the real reason he did it now? And what's the real reason he did it in the first place? I mean, it could be to get himself off, sure. It could be because he loves his son so much, sure. It could be because, you know, he wants to cement his legacy in some way that isn't tarnished by his son's criminal dealings. I guess so. Who knows? But you know what? In this case, I want to take Joe Biden at his word. Joe Biden thinks the Justice Department is corrupt. Joe Biden thinks the Justice Department acts politically. Joe Biden thinks that the Justice Department at any given time can bring charges against anyone for political purposes just to try to destroy them. That's what he said in his letter. And by the way, that's exactly why Donald Trump just won the presidency. Because we know for a fact that that's exactly what Joe Biden did with his Justice Department against Donald Trump. And by the way, against about 1,600 people who were involved in the chaos on January 6th. Make no mistake, this one pardon of Hunter Biden will lead to hundreds, if not over 1,000 pardons for anyone whose life was destroyed on January 6th. And that seems appropriate, doesn't it? It seems incredibly appropriate. Everybody is missing the point about what Joe Biden's pardon really means, because the ripple effect from the campaign to January 6th to every single charge against Donald Trump and the impeachment process, it's all connected back. And he just validated all of it by saying, my son gets a pardon for this entire time, because he just admitted that his son has been breaking the law that entire time. And that was the basis for everything that you just saw. So why now? Why now? What's the real reason he did it right now? And the answer is pretty simple if you think about it. If you think about who Joe Biden is, if you think about what his career has been, if you think about how he's acted in a selfish, narcissistic, egotistical way, if you think about his career and everything about him as a public official, a public servant, an elected official, if you think about him as a senator, as a candidate for president, as the man who tried to destroy Robert Bork for his own political gain, man who tried to destroy Clarence Thomas for political gain, the man who tried to destroy Mitt Romney and Sarah Palin and John McCain and Paul Ryan for political gain, the man who would say and do anything to hang on to political power and screw everybody in his path because he's Joe freaking Biden. If you think about that, then it becomes very clear why he did this. The man is still angry over what his pal Barack Obama, his pal Nancy Pelosi, and his protege Kamala Harris did to him last July. The man is still angry, and the man is still bitter that they pushed him out of the way, thinking that he was done, he was over, he couldn't win, and we got to bring Kamala in. He's still angry and bitter, and this is his last, well, maybe not last, but this is a major way to get back at everybody who he thinks screwed him. See, if he just wanted to save his son and exit stage left and get out of town, he would have done this the morning of January 20th, before he left the White House for the very last time, before going up to the Capitol for the inauguration of Donald Trump. But he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't just want to save his son. This is Joe Biden's big ol' FU to his own party, because every single Democrat in Washington, D.C., from Kamala Harris to Nancy Pelosi to Chuck Schumer to every single senator, Democrat senator who's going to be sitting there scrutinizing Donald Trump's picks for his cabinet, Every single one of them has to own this now. So when Democrat senators are sitting there questioning Kash Patel or Pete Hegseth or Pam Bondi for a cabinet position or FBI director position in the Trump administration, they're going to grandstand about what they did. They're going to grandstand about the rule of law. They're going to grandstand about the pristine, totally non-political Justice Department and FBI. They can't. They own this pardon. They need to either defend it or they need to eat every word they've ever said about Joe Biden and his integrity and his love for our country and the rule of law. They can't do either one. And every single time they come after Kash Patel as FBI director or Pam Bondi as attorney general or any of the assistant or deputy attorneys general who have been nominated, and they try to go after them by saying, well, you're just going to upend the whole thing and you're going to use the Justice Department as a political tool for revenge against Donald Trump's enemies. Every single one of those witnesses or every single one of those nominees can just look back at that Democrat senator and say, with all due respect, unlike Joe Biden, your friend and your colleague, the man that you defended, unlike Joe Biden, Donald Trump hasn't done a blanket pardon for a family member who has been caught up in corruption at the highest levels. The fact of the matter is, Joe Biden thinks this Justice Department went after Hunter Biden for political purposes. And if you nominate or if you confirm my nomination, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get to the bottom of it because that's wrong. That's not fair. That's not fair that Hunter Biden was unjustly investigated and prosecuted. And if Joe Biden's right about that, then we're going to look into it. And that's a problem. That's the reason why I'm here. I want to fix the Justice Department. That's what Joe Biden's done now. And every single Democrat in this town has to own it. Every single one of them has to wear this now as a badge of dishonor. And Joe Biden did that on purpose. Think about it. Think about the optics here. Joe Biden does this on Sunday night, December 1st, and then gets on Air Force One. And he goes right on to his heading out to Africa while reporters are screaming at him at the time. That's the only image you need, man. Joe Biden meandering over to Air Force One, climbing up the short stairs into his plane, damn it, so he can fly off to Africa without any accountability, without having to answer any questions, and leaving this mess behind for his pals, the ones who threw him under the bus, the ones who betrayed him, the ones who ripped him off of the ticket because they thought Kamala Harris had a better chance of beating Donald Trump. He leaves the mess behind for them all to own and for them all to clean up. You want to know the real reason why Joe Biden pardoned his son last night? The real reason why he did it now instead of waiting till later? It's because Joe Biden just doesn't give a crap. And that's who Joe Biden is. That's who he's always been. So there. All right. Sorry, I lost my mouse. Oh, there we go. My mouse is back. My mouse is back, everybody. Panic averted. The mouse is back. All right. Let's get on to this. News cycles like the pardon of Hunter Biden were made to order for guys like Scott Jennings. Now, we make no bones about the fact that we are huge fans of Scott Jennings on CNN. Just learned that the LA Times has hired him to be a columnist, the sole last man standing, the one conservative voice on the Los Angeles Times editorial board. He's going to be writing columns now. Finally, they've got a conservative voice writing columns at the LA Times. I'm sorry, what? Oh, is that right? Really? Jonah Goldberg is also a columnist at the LA Times? Jonah Goldberg, huh? Interesting. Like I said, Scott Jennings will be the only conservative voice writing columns over at the LA Times. We love Scott Jennings. He's fantastic. And this morning, boy, did he deliver as the subject of the Hunter Biden pardons came up. Let's take it away, Scott.
Joe Biden is leaving office making the strongest possible case for Donald Trump that anybody could possibly make it. And that's that Our government and our justice system is of, by, and for the elites and nobody else. He ran to banish Trumpism from our political system in this country, and he has left it politically and now institutionally the strongest possible political force in this country. It is a complete and utter failure by the head of the Democratic Party and the President of the United States. Never again do I want to hear, oh, Donald Trump's a liar. You can't believe anything he says. Donald Trump will abuse his power. Donald Trump will only use the system to benefit himself and his family and so on and so forth. Never again. I have one question for Karen, and that is, why did he need an 11-year blanket pardon going back to 2014 when Joe Biden was the vice president? We are sitting on the biggest cover-up of who knows what crimes, and Joe Biden amazingly knows exactly, roughly, when it started. He knows just about when it all started. He's leaving office in complete and total disgrace. He is a liar, and there is no other way to spin this today. This has nothing to do with Trump and everything to do with the character of Joe Biden.
All right.
You guys...
We're going to get more from that in a minute, but that was a beautiful moment there as well. It's a great point. Why randomly is it 2014? Why would Joe Biden just grab January 1st, 2014 out of midair, 2 years into Obama's second term? What? Hey, how far back do you want this pardon to go? I don't know. Let's just say 2014. That sounds like a good round number. 10 years ago. Yeah, let's do that. No. Jennings just makes a great point there. He started it back in 2014 because Joe Biden knows exactly when the highest level of this corruption took place. And that was when Hunter Biden got the job at Burisma, Ukraine, the money, everything that started the chain of events that led to Donald Trump's impeachment. And remember this, Joe Biden had already determined by that time in 2014 that he would not be running for president. Now, I know there was this big public display of him wondering if he'd run against Hillary Clinton. There was all this drama going on. He was never going to run for president in 2016. It was always made to order for Hillary. Bernie's the one who upset the apple cart. He was not going to run. So he knew in 2014, that's when they decided, all right, listen, I'm not running again. Let's just, go balls to the walls and let's do whatever we can. Foreign money, Chinese money, Russian money, Ukrainian money, Kazakhstani money. I don't care. Let's just make the money so that we can buy our houses and the whole family can be taken care of. He knew full well when all of the really high-end corruption began. So there's that's brilliant there. But also, talk about just removing any kind of legitimate criticism from Donald Trump. This whole idea that Donald Trump is going to use the Justice Department to benefit himself and for other people and his family members and political cronies. It's like Joe Biden has just destroyed every talking point that anyone on the left, any Democrat, and certainly anybody in the media has ever attempted to use against Donald Trump. In fact, if Donald Trump really wanted to live a peaceful, happy, wealthy life, he would have stayed Donald Trump, the private citizen. It's never made any sense to me. He just wants to use the presidency to make more money. He was already the top-selling television show and top-rated television show on the planet. He already had hotels and casinos. He had resorts. He had golf courses. Why in the hell would you go into politics at that point? If that was his goal, it never made any sense, and they know it. Of course they know it. All right, more Jennings, though, because he's just so good today.
Can spend all day long trying to spin this, that this is Donald Trump's fault, that this is somehow caused by Donald Trump. Oh, he's appointing the wrong people. Oh, he did it. Oh, this is the worst possible thing a president could possibly do to his party and to the country, to sit for a year and say, I will not do this. I will not do this. The rule of law is sacred. We have to respect the justice system. Juries, we have to respect juries. We have to respect the guardrails and the norms of our democracy. These people are liars. Inflation is transitory. Afghanistan, it's a success. The border is secure. Robert Hur is a liar. The videos are cheap fakes. Biden has a cold. He'll never drop out. Oh, I'll never pardon Hunter. It's all a lie. It is all a grift. Every American, except the most partisan, brain-rotted people are going to be outraged by this today. He is going to leave off. You think 38, 39% job approval is bad? Just you wait. Just you wait. He's disgraced today.
All right, we're going to get in there because he just said that only the most partisan, brain-rotted people wouldn't be upset about this. And that's what she finally took issue with, which is brilliant. But did you get that litany? Because this really is what's important. I tried to make this point earlier, that it's just lie after lie after lie. Anybody who is surprised by this, who's, I can't believe I saw a Chiron over on MSNBC today. Biden reverses course. Reverses course. That's a nice way to put it. Flip-flops. That's a really gentle way of putting it. He's an out and out, downright lion sack of, I don't have my beep today. I don't have my beep button, so I can't beep myself. He's a liar. Everyone knows he's a liar. But listen to this litany of lies that Jennings rattles off. It's impressive.
The rule of law is sacred. We have to respect the justice system. Juries, we have to respect juries. We have to respect the guardrails and the norms of our democracy. These people are liars. Inflation is transitory. Afghanistan, it's a success. The border is secure. Robert Hur is a liar. The videos are cheap fakes. Biden has a cold. He'll never drop out. Oh, I'll never pardon Hunter. It's all a lie. It is all a grift.
That's a great list, going all the way back to Afghanistan as a success, to Robert Hur was a liar, that Joe Biden's just feeling under the weather, but he's at the top of his game, sharp as a tack, never been better. I'll never pardon. Just inflation is transitory. There is no inflation. Okay, there was inflation, but it's over now. All of it. Lie after lie after lie, which these guys on CNN, by the way, have been completely complicit in boosting the lies and spreading the lies, by the way. In fact, it's so much that we could have shared with you today. One of my favorite clips was people sitting on sets like that over the course of the last 6 months. Whenever a Republican, a politician, a right-of-center commentator on any of these panel shows said, well, I expect Joe Biden is going to pardon his son Hunter, they would get attacked by the anchors, by the hosts of the show saying, well, the president has ruled that out. So think about this. Put yourself in the place of some idiot whose job it is now to read a teleprompter, but you call yourself a journalist. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about Jake Tapper. All right. So you call yourself a journalist, but your real job is to just read a teleprompter and make Democrats happy. Because as soon as you piss off a Democrat when you're sitting on a cable news show as a teleprompter reader, ooh, you've lost your sources. People aren't going to talk to you and give you secrets anymore that you get to then pretend is news so that you can just continue advancing lying narratives on cable news. So you got to keep Democrats happy, right? Imagine being that guy. Imagine being Jake Tapper or George Stephanopoulos or Wolf Blitzer or God, what's the Caitlin Collins? She's, I think, my favorite since she actually learned the ropes under Tucker Carlson and Vince Coglianese over at the Daily Caller. And look what she's become. You're Caitlin Collins, you're sitting on the set at CNN, and somebody says, well, I suspect that Joe Biden, we all know that Joe Biden's going to pardon his son. And then Caitlin Collins has to twist herself in her pretzel saying, well, the president has ruled that out. He said that he won't do that. He's given his word as a Biden. You know, you're a journalist. I would think that you would say, well, geez, maybe he is going to pardon. I mean, why wouldn't he pardon him? Maybe we shouldn't just take Joe Biden's word for it. Maybe we shouldn't just fact check somebody as if what Joe Biden has said is the gospel truth. But that's what they've had to do. Or they've been reduced to, well, the reason Joe Biden did this is because Donald Trump has so degraded the rule of law and integrity in this town and in this country that Joe Biden, well, we're just now all in the swamp. We're all in the gutter. Joe Biden has actually seen that Donald Trump can get away with it. He's a convicted felon. He won the election. So why shouldn't Joe Biden save his son? They're blaming Donald Trump for this. That's where they are right now. But then here comes Scott Jennings, where he says only the most partisan, brain-rotted Democrat would not be outraged by this. And that's where things get rough.
Every American, except the most partisan, brain-rotted people, are going to be outraged by this today. He is going to leave off. You think 38, 39% job approval is bad? Just you wait. Just you wait. He's disgraced
Don't-
today. Outrageous.
Scott, you don't need to hurl names and say people like me are brain rotted. Come on, that's a little beyond the pale, even for you, Scott.
Listen,
I disagree.
Stand
We can
up for
disagree
yourself.
about
You don't
this,
have
but
to
we don't
defend
have
this.
to call
He's
each other
leading
names.
office. You don't have to defend it. You don't have to die on this hill. You can say this is wrong because
I'm
everybody
fine with
knows
it,
that it
Scott.
is.
That's why I'm
It's
defending
wrong.
it.
Are you
Karen?
fine with the lying? Are you
I say
fine
good
with
for
him
Joe
sitting
Biden.
before the election all year and lying to the American people? Are you fine with the lying about it?
I don't think that he was lying. I think he made a decision after the fact and decided this was the right thing for him and for his family. Period. Full stop.
That's a great moment there, by the way, when I'm fine with it. Are you fine with the lying? Oh, I don't think he lied. I mean, what do you do with that? Honestly, what do you do with that? If Joe Biden didn't lie about pardoning his son, because again, let's just be clear. When you say, I'm not going to do this, and then you do it, you lied. Okay? Now, it's one thing if you say, I didn't do that thing that you're accusing me of doing, and it turns out that you did do it. Well, that's an obvious lie, right? But when you're projecting, when you're being asked, what do you plan to do? And you say, well, I know I'm not going to do this. And then you end up doing it, you're a liar. And yeah, you need to be a hypocritical, brain-rotted partisan to twist yourself into a pretzel to actually rationalize that. I love Jennings saying, Becky, you're better than this. Karen, you don't have to defend this. You don't have to. I'm empowering you. I'm giving you permission to step up and say what everybody in America thinks. And this is a dirty, low-down, horrible thing that Joe Biden has done. And Jennings makes a great point. He did this to Democrats. As I mentioned earlier, he did this to screw Democrats, and yet Democrats are still willing to follow the sword for him. God, it's good to be a Democrat. But what she just said here is incredibly important. And I want to just point it out again when she says, I don't think he lied. Just take a listen to it again. These are important words.
Are you
Karen?
fine with the lying? Are you
I say
fine
good
with
for
him
Joe
sitting
Biden.
before the election all year and lying to the American people? Are you fine with the lying about it?
I don't think that he was lying. I think he made a decision after the fact and decided this was the right thing for him and for his family.
Uh-huh. And that may be an absolutely honest assessment of what Joe Biden did. This is what's best for him and for his family. But you see, this isn't just a decision that affects him and his family, is it? This isn't deciding whether he's going to run for re-election or not. See, that's the kind of thing that you would frame in, I've decided not to put myself up for re-election because this is what's best for me and for my family. I've decided not to take that job and stay here in town here because it's what's best for me or my family. I've decided, but see, when you use the awesome unconditional pardon power of the President of the United States to get your son out of trouble and to wipe clean any crime that he may have committed for the last 10 years while operating at the highest levels of Washington, D.C., using the White House as a revolving door for corrupt business interests from countries who are adversaries to the United States of America. Well, that's not just a decision that affects you and your family. You see, that's a decision that affects our country. It affects our rule of law. It affects our criminal justice system. It affects the perception in this country that some people are, say it with me, above the law, that there are two sets of rules. And you just reinforced that, Joe Biden. This wasn't just about you and your family. This affects all of us. And by the way, it affects foreign adversaries that are coming. Because you see, a full criminal investigation into what Hunter Biden was involved with foreign countries and money that he got to influence potentially decisions in the White House during the Obama administration and during the Biden administration and in between. Well, that actually would expose corruption in other governments. It would expose connections that foreign governments have here in the United States. That's a matter of national security. And Joe Biden just churlishly, selfishly, narcissistically wiped that away. You see, Karen, I hate to break it to you, and I know you're trying to rationalize this because you have to look at yourself in the mirror and come up with some excuse as to how you make it through the day and collect a paycheck doing what you do. But Karen, this goes well beyond what Joe Biden did for himself and his family. This affects our nation. It affects our laws. It affects our character. It affects our standing in the world. It affects our national security. But you know what? You're right. Joe Biden doesn't give a crap about any of that. Joe Biden did what's best for Joe Biden, which is what he's always done. Thanks for affirming that. I appreciate it. Noted.
Period. Full stop.
John,
Donald Trump
do we not
decided
have
that
the
it
minute-
was okay to pardon.
Joe Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre, how many minutes of tape do we have of both of these people telling the American people this will not happen? It's I mean, we could play it all morning. It's a lie, and it's a lie to benefit his own family, and that's
fine,
all
but
that it
let's
is.
just-
And everybody who
let's
went on
just-
TV and said, oh, look how he's
calling
the
us-
modern George Washington. He's drained every ounce of credibility from every surrogate. If Karine Jean-Pierre had an ounce of self-respect, she'd get off the plane in Africa today where they're going so he can avoid the press and resign. He's drained all of her credibility, and everybody else who's defended this, it's draining for them forever.
Well, and Karen, to be fair, Joe Biden, we did play that sound earlier, did flat out say on multiple occasions, and the press secretary did, that he would not pardon Hunter Biden.
Wow, that was an accidental moment of journalism there from our friend Mr. Berman over there at CNN. Just pathetic, absolutely horrible, but great job as usual from Scott Jennings. It's days like this that you need Scott Jennings there. Good for him. And really, Jonah Goldberg, seriously, is a columnist at the LA Times. That's amazing. Well, and maybe someday the LA Times is going to hire another conservative other than Scott Jennings. All right. I didn't know how to wrap that up, but I just wanted to, give a little jab to Jonah again because it's fun.
Quick super chat
and funny.
Quick super chat, Larry.
When news hit that Joe Biden had reversed course, gone back on his word, and given a blanket pardon to his corrupt, prostitute peddling, crack smoking, grifter of a son, Hunter Biden, I had one thought in my mind, one thought and one thought only. What will the ladies of The View say? And then thankfully, about an hour ago, we got the answer, and boy, is it good. Let's start with Whoopi Goldberg, shall we?
Yesterday, Biden had a...
Right. So we'll get to that in a second, but did you see what just happened there? This is why, again, I like to point out that The View is a program of the ABC News division. This is a news show. And what you just heard from Whoopi Goldberg, the main anchor of this news show called The View, was, well, just not honest and not truthful and not, well, the news. Let me break it down for you real quickly here, and then we'll get to the next. That's not entirely true, at least. That's not news. That's a selective portion of the news. See, the tax charges and the gun charges, those are the two counts that he's actually been found guilty of. But he just gave his son a pardon that goes all the way back to 2014, well before the gun charges and before any charges related to the IRS have been levied. So that's Whoopi Goldberg trying to sort of diminish the ramifications of what Joe Biden did. And to call it a change of heart is kind of a cute way of saying Joe Biden's a lying sack of shinola. All right, so a little who singled out Hunter Biden? You see, this was an investigation by Joe Biden and Merrick Garland's Department of Justice. So he's saying that it doesn't matter who the president is, the Justice Department is so politically corrupt that they will go after me and my son to try to break us. Isn't that exactly why Donald Trump wants to clean house at the Justice Department? In fact, if you agree with Joe Biden, and as far as I know, every single Democrat in this town who has not said anything to criticize Joe Biden yet, they all agree with Joe on this, that they're behind him. I'm standing with Joe. I'm with him. Then they must agree that the Justice Department is inexcusably and irrevocably corrupt, and it has to be turned upside down and cleaned out with Clorox bleach. Good. Let's go. All right. Then the panel discussion continues. I'll skip ahead now. When you go through that list of people that Donald Trump pardoned or granted clemency to or commutations, none of them had the last name Trump. Is that not sort of a factor in here, Whoopi? Number one. Number two, when you grant those things, oftentimes a vast majority, if not all of those people, actually were convicted and served time before they were granted clemency. They were also granted clemency during the pandemic, where we had governors in other states literally opening the doors of their prisons and just letting people walk free, right? I think there's a slight difference here, number one, because Hunter Biden is a family member and the son of the president of the United States who granted this pardon. And number two, this is a blanket pardon for any crime that could have been committed over a 10-year period, which is very different than what Donald Trump did. But listen, they have spent the last 8+ years saying that Donald Trump is Hitler, Donald Trump is corrupt, Donald Trump is the worst man on the planet, Donald Trump is evil. And if their entire argument today is that, well, of course Biden did it because Trump did it, and they're basically the same. Okay, you go with that, ladies. You go with that. Because that's what they're reduced to. Yeah, well, she is kind of kooky. That's one word for it. But I do like well, you knew this was going to happen. So in other words, the entire time Joe Biden was saying he wasn't going to do this, and Karine Jean-Pierre was out there saying it wasn't going to happen, and all these people in the news and the media were saying it wasn't going to happen, Whoopi this entire time said, well, you kind of know he's going to do it. You kind of know they're all lying. You kind of know that they're all lying to us. And by the way, again, ABC News program The View with their main anchor, Whoopi Goldberg. I don't remember her coming on television saying, listen, you know, he's lying, right? He's lying, and everybody in the White House is lying about this because we all know it's going to happen. It's amazing how now, but it's a president's prerogative. He can do this. Something tells me that if the story were reversed and this was Donald Trump doing this for his son, Donald Trump Jr., I think they'd have a different take. I could be wrong. No, I'm not wrong. I'm definitely not wrong. More from The View here, though.
So I see this.
And I do love it. I know a lot of us like Joe Biden. Why? I'm curious, why do you still like Joe Biden after all of this? I mean, listen, Alyssa Farah is right in terms of the double standards. But my favorite part about that, again, journalist and member of ABC News, Alyssa Farah, saying, I wanted to ask him about it when he was here. But, you know, he'd said it so many times. It seems like, of course, he was telling the truth. You know, that's when you know you're dealing with a real journalist, a real hard-hitting interviewer. And now you know why Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were just fine going on The View. Even though, of course, one question on The View pretty much upended Kamala Harris's chances for the election. A little bit more on this whole idea of there being two sets of rules when it comes to the law for the rich and powerful and connected versus just going back to the here's the interesting thing here, Sonny Hostin. The jobs that you're talking about where you have to check a box on a form that says whether you convicted felon or not, that's so that the person who's doing the hiring can then take that into account and evaluate whether they're willing to entrust their business and their company's brand and their reputation with someone who is a convicted felon. But you need to disclose it so that that person making the hiring decision has all the facts in front of them. You want to compare that to Donald Trump being a convicted felon, but he won the election. Well, see, we're the employers in this case. Donald Trump checked the box. It was no secret. We all knew that he was a convicted felon. Trust me, we watched it play out before our very eyes because you guys made sure that it was all over the media for a year that Donald Trump was arrested and indicted, and here's the mugshot, and he's in the courtroom, and he's going to get convicted, and he got convicted, and we're calling him a convicted felon every chance that we get. So we were doing the hiring. We saw that he was a convicted felon. We took it into account, and we decided we were okay with it. And another employer will take it into account, and they'll decide whether they're okay with it or not. That's their right. That's their prerogative. But you're just a deceptive, duplicitous liar if you think that the one has anything to do with the other. And because Donald Trump won an election where tens of millions of people rejected your kangaroo court conviction of him, that in some way that extrapolates to a guy who owns a 7-Eleven having to hire somebody who's been convicted of robbing a 7-Eleven, well, you're just a moron. And a lying moron at that. Love you, though. I do. A little bit more from Sonny here. That's a fascinating statistic, by the way. And if that's the case, could we just do away with all of the pearl clutching, as you like to say, and grandstanding and sanctimony from those who were trying to infringe on our Second Amendment rights by constantly trying to add layer upon layer upon layer of federal bureaucracy in front of and in the way of our ability to exercise our Second Amendment rights? Because you're all just full of crap about it. All right. Think about this for a minute. The two things that Hunter Biden has already been found guilty of, and then God knows all the other things that he'll never have a chance to be found guilty of because he's now gotten a blanket pardon going all the way back to 2014, even for child prostitution. Right? Because we've all seen the pictures on the laptop. But the two things that he actually got convicted of are two things that Democrats absolutely love. Two things that are like on the Mount Rushmore of issues for Democrats that they love running on, that they love beating up conservatives and Republicans over, and they love raising money on. Number one, guns. We need more regulations, common sense gun safety regulations. We need to infringe on people's Second Amendment rights more and more and more. We need universal background checks. Really, what happens in those background checks? Well, you have to answer questions on a form truthfully about your background. Oh, like if you're a drug user or not, because Hunter Biden lied about that and you seem just fine with it. In fact, you're trumpeting the fact that only 1.4% of people who lie on that form get convicted. Well, why the hell do we have the form in the first place? And why do you beat us up and try to get that? Only the honest people have their rights infringed by all of these Second Amendment infringements that they try to put out there. And if you're a criminal, you're going to get the gun that you want anyway. So could you just leave us alone? Oh, and then if taxes, of course, that's the other thing. Rich people need to pay their fair share. Rich people need to pay their fair share. That's all we hear from Democrats, from Bernie Sanders to Elizabeth Warren. You know, all the rich people in the Senate who are Democrats, to Hillary Clinton, to Joe Biden. We just want the rich to pay their fair share. Hunter Biden's pretty rich, guys. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. And guess what? He didn't pay his fair share, and he just got pardoned for it. I don't want to hear it again from these people. They don't take these laws seriously, not in any way whatsoever. All right, but we move on to a little bit more from Sonny Hostin. First, I think my favorite freeze frame of this entire year so far, of a great year's worth of freeze frames on this. But could we blow that up for a second, Kevin, so we could see Sonny Hostin? That's how I always want to remember Sonny, when the View gets taken off the air. All right, a little bit more from Sonny. So that's Alyssa Farah saying, listen, if he was if the crimes were stupid, if he was being charged only because his name is Hunter Biden, if nobody would have been charged with this, crime unless their last name was Biden, as Eric Holder said, then why didn't Joe Biden, on the day he was convicted, why didn't Joe Biden say, I'm going to pardon my son because this is not fair and this is right? Now, the obvious answer is because, Joe Biden wanted to be reelected. And then after the fact, he didn't want to saddle Kamala Harris with this because he wanted Kamala Harris to get reelected, probably. And if he had pardoned Hunter Biden during the campaign, then Kamala Harris would have been stuck and she would have had to answer to it. And she would have either alienated Joe Biden, the Biden family, and Democrats by saying, oh, well, that's wrong, he shouldn't have done that, or she'd have to own it. That's why he didn't admit it. That's why he lied about it this entire time. It's obvious to anybody with a brain. But Sonny Hostin's decided that the real reason Joe Biden lied is because of Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump's fault. Someone needs to explain the logic of that. The reason he didn't say that he was going to pardon Hunter is because he didn't know Donald Trump was going to get elected. But now that Donald Trump's been elected, he has to pardon him. Oh, is it because he knew that Kamala Harris would ignore the law and not pursue any charges against Hunter Biden? Is that what you're admitting, Sonny Hostin? That the only reason he needed a pardon now was because somebody was going to come in and actually take the rule of law seriously, and that man's name is Donald Trump and the other U.S. attorneys and attorney general that get appointed to actually enforce the law? Is that what you're admitting? Because if that's what you're admitting, probably the first truthful thing we've heard on this show in quite some time. All right, now my favorite part. We now turn to the genius that is Ana Navarro. And, Ana Navarro is on this panel and on many panels because she claims she is a Republican political consultant. Now, I could be wrong about this, and forgive me if I am, but my understanding from people who are actual Republican political consultants is that Ana Navarro's entirety of her career as a Republican political consultant was in the state of Florida when, for the Jeb Bush campaign for governor, and then I believe for the John McCain campaign for president in 2008, and boy, wasn't that a good campaign, that she was an unpaid consultant to build the Latino vote for Republicans in Florida. And that really worked out well, didn't it? But as far that, now that's what my friends tell me who are actually in these circles. And then she turned that unpaid volunteer position on that losing campaign for John McCain into a media persona that she now uses to attack Donald Trump. She is the most Democrat Republican consultant you'll ever see. I lay that out there for you because what Ana Navarro is about to say makes all of this worthwhile. It actually crystallizes the logic behind this entire thing. Ana Navarro, take it away. Poor Joe Biden having to live with that guilt. But did you catch that? Did you catch that? The reason that Joe Biden did this apparently is because Ana Navarro lobbied so hard for it. I mean, finally, somebody listened to Ana Navarro's advice. This tells you what a great political consultant she is. That her advice to Joe Biden was to pardon Hunter, because boy, what a winner this is. What a winning political move, and what a great American move it is. It's such a great thing for our nation. It's such a great thing for Democrats. It's such a great thing for Joe Biden's legacy. This is Ana Navarro's idea of political consulting. Hey, Joe, I got a great idea for you. It's gonna be killer. This is a home run, baby. I'm telling you, you're gonna knock him out. You should pardon Hunter. I'm gonna leave you a handwritten note. I'm gonna suggest it every chance I have. That's what you need to do. Maybe she is a brilliant Republican consultant. Maybe she's playing 8D chess with all of us, and she's actually ingratiated herself in there. She's given Joe this advice, and Joe's been like, you know what, that Ana Navarro, she's got my best interest at heart. I'm going to do what she suggested. I'm going to go ahead and pardon Hunter, thus creating this cascade of events that will end up being Republican domination in American politics for the next 30 years. And it's all Ana Navarro's fault. I don't think that's the case. I think she's actually that much of a moron here that she thinks this was a great idea. But hey, I could be wrong. But yeah, let me just be clear here. This whole idea that is, well, he's just got to do this for his son because he loves his son and he wants to help him. That's fine. You can make that case, and he should have made that case when he pardoned his son, but that's not what he said. That's what he did. And by the way, he would have done that on day one. From the moment his son was convicted, he would have said, well, listen, I understand he was convicted, but I love my son. And I don't want him to go to jail. I'm going to do whatever I can with him. I would die for my child. And so I'm going to go ahead and take the political hit, but I'm going to pardon my son. But you see, he didn't do that. He wasn't willing to take any political hit until after all was said and done, until after the election, until after it really couldn't hurt him and hurt Kamala Harris. You can't hurt Joe Biden now at this point. He's already been president. He's on his way out. He's not running for re-election anymore. He didn't actually do anything noble for his son and help him out of his deep, abiding love for him. Oh, and by the way, the language in his letter said nothing about doing this for his son because he loves him so much. The language in the letter was, we're being persecuted. They're coming after us. The Justice Department is corrupt, which, by the way, I'm sure Donald Trump appreciates, because that'll rationalize not only every nominee he's putting forward to fix the Justice Department and the FBI, but it also is the foundational basis for every single January 6th pardon that Donald Trump better deliver on his first day in office. That said, Ana Navarro had one more bit of wisdom. This now, instead of that great wise advice that she gave to Joe, this advice is for Hunter. Hunter, make sure you're listening. Your abuela, Ana Navarro, is talking to you. Really sweet, and that's wonderful, and it's tugging at my heartstrings. They talk about this guy, Hunter Biden, like he's 23 years old. He's in his 50s. Okay, he's in his 50s. And your father has given you a gift. Let's just be clear on this. Anything that the president of the United States is able to give someone is only empowered by we the people. You see, we the people, through our constitutional process, grant the pardon power to the president of the United States. And when the president delivers that pardon, he's doing it on our behalf. So Hunter did not get a gift from his dad. He got a pardon from the president of the United States, who is empowered by we the people. So if Hunter has any gratitude for this, it should be directed at us, even though we weren't consulted on this one. But this whole idea of, well, now you need to be a good son, and now you need to be this, and now you need to be that, and you should be clean and sober. Let me just tell you something. As a dad and as a son, I'll just boldly tell you that the reason that Hunter Biden has done the things that he's done throughout his life is because of his dad, because of the fathering that he got, because of how his father always sent the message that you're a Biden and your dad is powerful. You can go ahead and do whatever you want because you're Hunter Biden, damn it. And any trouble you get into, I'll use my power to help you out and get you out of it, scot-free. Absolutely. I'll get you a commission to the Navy. You can join the Navy as an officer. If you dropped out after a month because of your rampant drug use that we all knew about when I got you that job in the Navy, that's fine. We'll cover it up. We'll clean it up for you. We'll take care of you. His entire life, he's been given a pass and gotten bailed out because of his dad. You know what good fathering is? Good fathering is ensuring that your son actually does have to pay a price when they screw up, because that's the only way that they learn the lesson. In fact, my hunch is that Joe didn't spend a whole lot of time doling out much punishment to his son when he screwed around, and that's why his son kept screwing around more and more, because he would have liked to have actually been on his dad's radar now and again, even if it was just for negative attention. This whole idea that Hunter owes his dad something, you should be a good son now. I got an idea. How about Joe be a good dad for once in his 80-plus years? Abuela. Oh, but they're not done. There's more here on The View. It's so good. Sorry, I got to jump in here. I love that whip. I've stopped calling it a lie. Oh, well, that makes it better. What do you mean you've stopped calling it a lie? It's either a lie or it's not a lie. Well, I've stopped calling it a lie. Okay, you can call it a banana if you want. Where's the reality here? That's just a beautiful moment. Again, ABC News, Whoopi Goldberg, employee in good standing. Can we just hear that one more time? As bad as Alyssa Farah is, she's actually right about this. The only reason that the pardon didn't come sooner is because he wanted to win the election or have his party win the election. But I do love Whoopi Goldberg, still trying to paint Joe Biden as this deeply moral man who walks the straight and narrow and everything. And I just want you to listen or think about the morality of the person that she just describes. I don't think he had any intention of pardoning his son. All right, because he was standing his ground. He is moral, he is ethical, and he was standing on principle. But then he saw other people getting away with crimes, and he decided, well, why should I be the only one who follows the law? So I'll go ahead and do this. Now, maybe in Hollywood, where Whoopi Goldberg lives, that actually makes some kind of moral sense. But where I am, where most people are in their lives, that is literal moral idiocy. In fact, it's the opposite of morality. It's the opposite of character. It's the opposite of principle. Joe Biden said he wouldn't pardon his son because he's a man of such great integrity and moral fiber. But then when he saw other people getting away with it, he decided to go ahead and do it, because that's just how moral he is. I was at the store, and I was not going to shoplift anything, because that's the kind of moral, principled person that I am. But then I saw other people shoplifting, and they were getting away with it, so I went ahead and shoplifted. But it's okay that I did, because I wasn't going to because of my character or something. And these people have to live with themselves every single day. All right, one last clip from The View. Go. Hey, that's the entirety of the moral discussion here. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Trump did it, therefore anything. And by the way, what did Trump do exactly? Trump's trial and convictions, which the American people knew everything about, did not stand in the way of him winning the election. They're acting like Trump did something by winning the presidency. We did it, Whoopi. We knew that you charged him and convicted him, and we elected him anyway. It's on us, not on him. Don't blame Trump for that. And the fact that Joe Biden didn't do this while he was still running for election, or his running mate was running for election, Kamala Harris, proves that he knew the American people would not accept his felonious actions, or that's not the right word, felonious, because that suggests he's broken the law here. They wouldn't accept his actions here and his, pardoning and excusing his son's felonious actions. The American people would not have accepted that the way we did accept the convictions of Donald Trump, because we knew, we all know that the charges against Donald Trump are, number one, still pending appeal, and number two, were complete and total crap. But this is what you have to do when you're on the left, when you're Whoopi Goldberg and when you're the people on The View, to twist yourself and contort yourself without any kind of moral compass or true North Star to be able to deliver, I guess, what you just saw them deliver. Amazing. I do want to give a shout out to Nicholas Fondacaro over at Media Research Center Newsbusters. He has to watch The View every day. And that was glorious, all the clips that he just pulled. We love Media Research Center and the folks over at Newsbuster, and Nick in particular. If you thought The View was going to change for the Trump presidency, well, I guess you just got your answer. This is what they're going to do. And everything, no matter what happens, no matter what Democrats do, it's so easy. It would be so easy to be on The View if I were one of those women. Because no matter what Democrats do, I can say, well, Trump. Trump. And then that's it. That's the entirety of your thought process when having to work out your analysis when you're on The View. It would sure make my job easier. Instead, I don't know, I actually have to think and bring you some new perspectives and actually hopefully make you look at the news events the way you didn't last time you heard about it, or see it from somewhere else. And that brings us to the end of our program. Thank you so much for watching today. And thank you for your likes. Thank you for your subscribes. Thank you for sharing this show and all of our segments, which we will present a little later in the day as separate clips. If you liked any of them all unto themselves, please share those as well. Do we have any super chats we want to shout out here? Kevin, there's Francie with that great dog, $4.99. Biden gave Trump a gift. Jan 6 prisoners free. Hunter is done anyway. Biden goes down as a liar. Merry Christmas. There really is a complete and total disintegration. But if you watched our first segment, you'll see that part of what Biden did here is not just give Trump a gift in that framing, Francie, but this was also a big FU to his party, to Chuck Schumer, to Nancy Pelosi, to Barack Obama, to Kamala Harris for throwing him under the bus. He doesn't care anymore. But all those Democrats who want to run for office again, they've got to own this now too. So it was a gift for Trump, but it was also an FU to his own political enemies. Thank you, Francie. Happy December. Angela for $5. Thank you so much for that. 10-year pardon sounds more like CYA to me. Funny how it comes right after Castro's pick. Yes. Don't you need specific charges to pardon? You don't. Will it go to Supreme Court? No, it won't. The pardon power of the president is absolute. That has already been tried and tested. It cannot get challenged by the Supreme Court. And no, you do not have to actually define what crimes. You can do exactly what he did here. Gerald Ford did a similar pardon to Richard Nixon. It was narrow in scale. It was any crime that he may have committed but had not yet been charged to in connection with the Watergate affair. That pardon was given by Gerald Ford. But there was, Richard Nixon had been not been charged with any crimes. There were articles of impeachment that were being drafted, but Gerald Ford sort of preempted that by giving him a pardon. And he didn't have to cite any specific crime. He just said anything that he may have done related to Watergate. So, no, listen, the pardon power is pretty absolute. It won't be challenged. It's a done deal. And for everyone saying, well, he, now Hunter can't plead the fifth if he's asked questions. Yeah, that's great. Absolutely. And they should employ that tactic they have to go after James Biden. I don't know if they can go after Joe Biden on this. I interviewed Joe DeGeneva, former U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, earlier this morning on my radio show. And he said, listen, the immunity clause right now for actions of Joe Biden when he was president or vice president probably gives him immunity from any charges. So even if Hunter Biden can no longer plead the fifth and he can tell where all the bodies are buried right now and be compelled to tell where all the bodies are buried right now, that doesn't mean you can get to Joe necessarily. But let's see. I do like, though, that you point out that this happened just 24 hours after Kash Patel was named. I don't think that's a coincidence either. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Really fun live stream. Thanks for being a part of it. We'll see you tomorrow. My name is Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.